What do you mean your team didn't get breaks today? Zachary Lowell stared at the weekly operations report, his jaw tightening as he scrolled. 15 fast food locations. Built from the ground up over a decade. He started with one burger stand and a loan he could barely repay. Now, he had over 200 employees. But lately, things fell off. Employee turnover had spiked. A few anonymous complaints had filtered through the HR inbox, vague concerns about overworked staff and bad vibes. At one of the busiest locations, Store 9, a drive-thru heavy branch in West Haven. The numbers didn't make sense. Labor hours were flat, but revenue had dropped. Customer reviews were dipping into 2-star territory. Something wasn't adding up. Zachary rubbed his forehead, leaned back in his chair, and sighed. I don't trust spreadsheets anymore, he muttered. He stood, walked over to the mirror near his office door, and stared at himself. Sharp suit, neat beard, polished shoes. No one would mistake him for a team member. A week later, Zachary walked into Store 9 as Eli, a soft-spoken transfer trainee from a different location. Baggy khakis, oversized polo, baseball cap pulled low, glasses, and a fake mole on his cheek. He'd worked with a disguise expert to make sure no one would recognize him. He'd never met this team. They had no photos of him in the back. To them, he was just another face in the crowd. The assistant manager, a tall woman with a clipboard and a look of constant frustration, barely gave him a second glance. New guy? She asked. Yeah, Eli, Zachary said, shaking her hand. Cool. You'll be on drive-thru window with Danny. We're short today, so hustle. Short-staffed. That explains some of the numbers. But it didn't explain the tension he felt the moment he stepped behind the counter. It was loud, fast, and chaotic. Orders barked, timers beeped, oil hissed. Danny, the drive-thru lead, was maybe 25, with tired eyes and a patient voice. Hey, she said, handing him a headset. You ever done drive-thru? Not really, Zachary said. Well, just follow my lead. And don't stress. It's always like this. She wasn't lying. They worked non-stop for over 3 hours. No breaks. Not even a water sip. Zachary's feet started to ache. His shoulder throbbed from reaching for bags. And Danny? She never complained. Not once. Mid-shift, Zachary looked around. Hey, when's our break? He asked her quietly. Danny glanced toward the kitchen, where the store manager, a man named Travis, stood with his arms crossed, watching them. You're funny, she said, her smile tight. We don't really get those here. Zachary blinked. Seriously? She nodded. We're supposed to. But Travis hates it. Says it messes with flow. Zachary kept his voice low. Is that legal? Danny shrugged. I mean, I think so. But if you ask, he'll take you off the schedule next week. Happened to Luis. Luis? He used to work here. Asked for his 10-minute break, gone the next day. Zachary's gut twisted. Later, he watched Travis walk past a young worker, maybe 17, who was visibly sweating and leaning on the counter. You look tired, Max, Travis said loud enough for everyone to hear. Next time you want a break, take it on your own time. We're not running a daycare. No one laughed. Max didn't even respond. Just went back to bagging fries. Zachary clenched his jaw and looked at Danny. That normal? She nodded without looking up. Welcome to Store 9. The shift dragged into early evening. At one point, Danny winced and rubbed her wrist. You okay? Carpal tunnel, she said. I've been asking to be rotated to front register, but let me guess, Zachary said. Travis won't let you. She gave him a look. You learn fast. By the end of the day, Zachary was limping. His hands were sore. His shirt was soaked in sweat. He'd worked hard all his life, but it had been years since he'd felt this kind of exhaustion. As the team closed up, Travis clapped his hands. Good hustle today, folks. No slacking. That's how we keep this place running. No thank yous? No praise. Zachary turned to Danny. You staying on for the cleanup? Yeah. I'll be here till midnight. You started at 8 this morning. She forced a smile. Yeah. He nodded, then quietly grabbed his backpack and stepped outside. He sat in his car, stared through the windshield into the fading light, and whispered to himself. What the hell happened to my company? Zachary returned to Store 9 the next morning before dawn, muscles still aching from the day before. He had barely slept. The image of Danny massaging her wrist while wiping down the drive-thru counter kept looping in his mind. He parked down the block to avoid being seen arriving in an expensive vehicle, and walked in through the back like everyone else. The kitchen lights were on, but the air inside was stiff and cold. The overnight cleaning crew had already left, and a single prep cook named Jordan was slicing tomatoes in silence. Eli, Zachary said, announcing himself softly. Jordan gave a nod but didn't speak. His eyes looked sunken, and his apron was already stained. You just start? Zachary asked. Jordan didn't stop slicing. 4. Same as every day. You always work alone in the mornings? Jordan paused. Not supposed to. But the other prep guy quit last week. Manager still hasn't replaced him. Zachary nodded slowly. That's a lot for one person. Jordan didn't respond. He just picked up another box of produce and kept working. The rest of the morning crew trickled in one by one, all looking worn before they'd even clocked in. Danny arrived last, her hand wrapped in a compression brace. You all right? Zachary asked, lowering his voice. She gave a half nod. Didn't sleep much? Wrist kept locking up. He looked around. You really shouldn't be on register today. I know. Did you say anything? I did. Yesterday. As if on cue, Travis walked in from the front, sipping a large iced coffee. Danny, take drive-thru. Eli, you're up front today. Zachary opened his mouth, but Danny cut him off with a quiet shake of her head. He watched her plug in her headset with her good hand, the other one trembling slightly. Travis didn't acknowledge either of them again. Through the morning, Zachary tried to make sense of the kitchen's rhythm. Orders came in faster than they could be filled. The grill cook, a thin woman named Rena, was darting between stations with a limp. She moved sharply but with a visible wince each time she turned. You okay? Zachary asked when they crossed paths. She shrugged without slowing down. Old knee injury. Flared up again. You take anything for it? Can't. Makes me dizzy. And I've got another job after this one. Can't afford to be out of it. 2 jobs. Bad knee. No accommodation. Zachary made a mental note, resisting the urge to pull her off the line right then and there. He needed a fuller picture before acting. Customer volumes surged by mid-morning. The dining area filled with parents and toddlers, older couples, and construction crews on break. Zachary moved between register and lobby, trying to keep pace. The lobby trash was overflowing. No one had had time to empty it. At one point, a man in a suit stepped up to the counter and hissed, I've been waiting 20 minutes for a mobile order. Is this a joke? Zachary apologized and sprinted to check with the kitchen. The bag with the man's name had been ready for 10 minutes, forgotten on the side shelf. No one had been assigned to monitor it. When he brought it out, the man snatched it from his hands. Unbelievable, he muttered. Zachary glanced at Travis, who was standing by the drink station, scrolling through his phone. Hey, Travis, Zachary said, keeping his tone neutral. We're short someone on mobile pickups. That's why orders are getting missed. Travis didn't look up. That's not my job. Talk to Danny. She's locked into drive-thru. Then sort it out yourself. You want something done, do it. Zachary walked away before the heat in his chest could boil over. Around noon, a vendor delivery truck pulled up. The driver came in, clipboard in hand. I got your produce and dry goods. Travis waved at Zachary. You. Go unload the back. Zachary stared at him. I've never done that before. Then learn. Jordan joined him in the stockroom. They worked in silence for nearly 30 minutes, hauling heavy boxes of lettuce, buns, and paper goods. You always unload deliveries? Zachary asked, lifting a crate with a grunt. Every Tuesday and Friday. Just you? Sometimes Rena helps. If she's not on grill. Zachary rubbed his shoulder. This stuff's heavy. Jordan looked at him. That's why the other guy left. They were almost done when a manager from another store walked in. A lean man in his early 30s, wearing the same company polo but in a darker shade. His name tag read, Eric, District Lead. Zachary stood up straight, heart thumping. Eric had met him once, almost 2 years ago, during a leadership summit. He didn't recognize him now. Eric looked around the kitchen, hands on his hips. Where's Travis? In front, Rena called out. Eric nodded and walked through. Zachary followed discreetly, grabbing a rag to make it look like he was cleaning. Eric's voice carried just enough to be heard. You've got complaints stacking up, Travis. Corporates asking questions. From who? Customers. And employees. Travis scoffed. Whiners. They can't handle the pace. Eric didn't respond right away. You're running this place too tight. No backup, no brakes. That's not sustainable. Travis leaned back against the counter. We're meeting numbers. Barely. They stood in silence a moment longer before Eric said, I'll be back in 2 weeks. Get your team in shape. When he left, Travis turned and kicked the trash can hard enough to dent it. Then he muttered something under his breath and stormed into the office. Zachary's pulse was racing. He walked back to the front where Danny was handing out a milkshake with her left hand, trying to hide the strain in her right. You need to sit down, he said quietly. I need this job, she replied. He turned around to find Max, the teenager from yesterday, wiping a booth. His shirt was damp, and his hands shook slightly as he sprayed cleaner onto the table. How many hours you working this week? Zachary asked. 42. You go to school? Yeah. Zachary's hands curled at his sides. You ever get scheduled less? Max looked up, eyes dull. Once I asked to drop a shift. Travis said if I wanted fewer hours, he'd cut me down to 0. The lunch rush ended just as a thunderstorm rolled in outside. The lights flickered briefly. Danny leaned against the counter, her face pale. Zachary walked straight to the back office and knocked once before pushing the door open. Travis looked up from his chair. What? I'm going home, Zachary said. You can't just, I'm not asking. Travis stood. Then don't bother coming back. Zachary stared at him. You sure about that? Travis stepped closer. Yeah. I am. Zachary didn't flinch. Good. He walked out without another word, pulled off his hat and glasses as soon as he reached his car, and started the engine with shaking hands. Tomorrow, he would come back but not as Eli. Tomorrow, he would come back as himself. The next morning, the rain had passed but the sky hung low, heavy with post-storm haze. Zachary didn't bother with the disguise. He parked directly in front of Store 9 in a plain rental sedan, nothing flashy, just enough to keep attention off his arrival. He wore a clean company quarter zip, dark jeans, and a worn baseball cap, no logos. Familiar but neutral. He stepped inside at 7:30, just before the breakfast shift transition. The moment he crossed the threshold, Danny looked up from the register. Her eyes flicked over him, narrowed slightly then widened. She stepped back. Eric, the district lead, had arrived early too. He was standing near the prep station, clipboard in hand, reviewing inventory logs. When he looked up and saw Zachary, his spine straightened. Zachary gave him a small nod. Let's talk in the back. Eric followed without a word. Travis wasn't in yet. In the office, Zachary closed the door behind them. How long have you known? Eric asked. 2 days, Zachary replied. I was Eli. Worked 2 full shifts. Eric's face paled slightly. I had no idea. I thought you were doing audits through ops. I was. But spreadsheets don't show everything. He didn't sit. Did you know Travis was denying breaks? Eric exhaled slowly. I suspected something was off. I'd heard rumors. But no one filed formal complaints. They're scared, Zachary said. And for good reason. Eric looked away. What do you want me to do? Call HR. Get someone here by noon. I want it documented when I confront him. You're terminating? There's no version of this where he stays. Eric nodded. Understood. He reached for his phone. Zachary opened the office door and stepped out. Rena was flipping eggs, and Jordan was slicing bagels near the toaster. Max was wiping menus at the self-serve kiosk, eyes still downcast. Zachary walked over to Danny. She didn't say anything, but her entire posture had shifted rigid, uncertain. You don't have to do anything today, he said quietly. You're off the floor. She swallowed hard. Are you serious? I've arranged coverage. Go sit in the back for now. That wrist needs rest. She opened her mouth, closed it again, and finally nodded. Thank you. He turned to the front just as Travis entered, coffee in hand, sunglasses still on indoors. The moment Travis saw Zachary, he froze. His foot hung in mid-step. Zachary didn't wait. Office. Now. Travis blinked. What? Zachary's voice didn't rise. You heard me. Eric was already waiting, phone to his ear. A moment later, a woman in business attire entered through the employee door. HR, sent from headquarters. She introduced herself quietly and began setting up on the far side of the office. Travis stood in the doorway, arms crossed. What's going on? Zachary gestured to a chair. Sit. I don't answer to you. Zachary's tone didn't change. I'm the owner. You do. Travis's expression faltered. He looked at Eric, then at the HR manager. Slowly, he sat. Zachary remained standing. I worked 2 shifts here. Undercover. Saw everything firsthand. You what? I saw you ignore team injuries. I saw you deny legally required breaks. I saw you delegate your responsibilities and blame your staff when things fell apart. I saw you humiliate a 17-year-old over nothing. Travis scoffed. I run a tight operation. We're understaffed. I do what I have to. No, Zachary said. You do what serves your ego. It's a tough store to run. You'd know that if you weren't in an office all day. Don't push it, Eric said sharply. Zachary leaned forward slightly. You've created a culture of fear. People are afraid to speak. They're breaking down from overwork. And you've done nothing but lean harder. Travis looked at the HR rep. So what? I get a warning? You're done, she said, voice calm but firm. Effective immediately. He stood up fast, knocking the chair back. You can't just throw away a manager like that. Zachary looked him dead in the eyes. You did that yourself. Travis stormed out without another word. The store was quiet when Zachary returned to the floor. Word had traveled fast. Danny was sitting in the break room, hand in her lap, staring at the wall. Rena had stopped flipping eggs. Jordan was wiping the same corner of the prep counter for the 3rd time. Zachary clapped his hands once. Everyone take 5. People looked at each other, unsure. You're not in trouble, he added. Come out front. They gathered slowly, Rena limping slightly, Max hovering near the back, Jordan with his arms folded. Eric stood off to the side, silent. Zachary spoke clearly. Travis is no longer your manager. His behavior was unacceptable, and it ends today. No one spoke, but the air shifted. Starting immediately, scheduled breaks will be enforced. If you're on for more than 5 hours, you get your legally required rest. No exceptions. He looked at Rena. We'll adjust the line rotation so you're not on grill every morning. We'll deal with the knee. You shouldn't be hurting just to keep up. She blinked twice, then nodded once. He turned to Jordan. You're not unloading deliveries alone anymore. We'll assign a second person, or I'll send in a floater from another store. Jordan's expression didn't change, but his shoulders lowered slightly. To Max, you'll be scheduled in line with your school hours. No retaliation if you ask for adjustments. You're a student first. Max looked down, then gave a small nod. Finally, he looked to Danny, still seated, watching everything. You've been holding this team together. Unseen. Unappreciated. That changes now. I'm not a manager, she said quietly. You should be, Zachary replied. If you want it, we'll train you. Support you. She didn't answer right away. She just stared at him, eyes unreadable. Then finally, I don't want to be like him. Then don't be. Be better. I think you already are. She exhaled slowly. I'll think about it. Zachary nodded. Good. Eric stepped forward. New interim manager arrives tomorrow. Experienced from store 4. Until then, I'll stay here and help stabilize. Zachary looked around the room. This place has potential. I saw it even when things were broken. You've all kept it running under pressure no one should have to endure. No applause. No cheers. Just a long silence filled with something heavier than gratitude, relief. Lunch rush is coming, Zachary said. Let's get through it. Then we'll keep building from there. People moved slowly at first, then with more confidence. Rena returned to the grill, this time with a stool nearby in case she needed to rest. Jordan started prepping sandwich trays with a little more energy. Max took the front register without being told. Zachary stepped beside Danny at the drive-thru station. You sure you want to do this shift? He asked. She flexed her wrist slowly. I'll finish the day. But I'm not pushing it. Good. She looked at him sidelong. You're not what I expected. I'm not either, he said. They both turned as the first car pulled up to the speaker. Zachary didn't take over. He watched. He listened. And for the first time in a long time, he saw his company not from behind glass but from eye level. Where it mattered. The following 2 weeks brought no miracle turnaround, only slow, methodical repair. Zachary returned to store 9 each morning, not as an owner checking boxes, but as a present force mopping floors, wiping tables, reviewing schedules, and watching, always watching. He wasn't there to take over, but to understand what each person needed to do their job without breaking under it. The interim manager, a quiet and organized woman named Teresa, arrived the morning after Travis was fired. She came from Store 4, a location known for its tight systems and low turnover. She didn't ask to be respected, she earned it by stepping in where needed, not just barking orders. Her first action was to host brief one-on-ones with every employee over the course of her first 3 days, taking notes by hand. On day 4, Teresa posted the new schedule. It didn't fix everything. There were still short shifts where coverage ran thin. But for the first time in months, no one was scheduled above 39 hours without approval, and breaks were built in with buffer staffing. It meant leaner operation windows, but it also meant people could breathe. Danny's name appeared on the schedule under a new title, Shift Supervisor, Trainee. She hadn't asked for it. Teresa had submitted it after quietly observing 3 back-to-back lunch rushes and seeing how Danny de-escalated a customer complaint, trained a new hire mid-shift, and quietly swapped out Max when he started showing signs of fatigue. During their first official meeting, Teresa looked over the top of her glasses. You don't need to prove anything, she said. You're already leading. You just need support. Danny didn't say much in return. But she showed up early the next day, clipboard in hand, and had already reassigned the closing crew before Teresa walked in. Zachary stayed in the background, careful not to overshadow. He asked questions others hadn't thought to. Like why the fryer filter system hadn't been replaced in over a year. Jordan said it always smoked during high volume. Or why the condiment station was set up in a way that forced people to bend awkwardly. Rena mentioned her back problems had started around the time it was rearranged. He acted on every answer. A new fryer filter system was ordered and installed within 4 days. The condiment station was reconfigured with adjustable shelving. A physical therapist was brought in for a voluntary ergonomics workshop. No one had ever done that at a fast food chain, but Rena stayed after her shift to attend it and asked more questions than anyone else. Max's school counselor was contacted, with parental consent, to help realign his weekly hours with his academic workload. He was moved to weekends and 2 evening shifts, never past 9. He started showing up 10 minutes early, not because anyone asked, but because someone finally noticed what he needed. On the 10th day, Teresa pulled Zachary aside during the lull after breakfast. "You're still not done with this place," she said. "No," he replied. "But I think I'm finally doing it right." She nodded. "You know, the crew's been talking. About? They thought you'd disappear after Travis was gone. Like most execs." He crossed his arms. "I'm not most. That's what they're starting to believe." Later that afternoon, a regional audit team arrived unannounced, as planned. Zachary had arranged it through the compliance division. Not to punish, but to verify. If Store 9 was going to recover, it had to do it under the same scrutiny as any other store. The team reviewed everything: time cards, safety logs, food handling procedures, inventory waste. When they wrapped up, the lead auditor, a man named Darren, pulled Zachary aside. "6 months ago, this place was flagged as high risk," he said. "Today, it's compliant across the board. Not perfect but stable." Zachary nodded. "That's all I wanted to hear." That evening, the closing crew gathered in the back, having just finished the final wipe down. The lights were dimmed, the lobby chairs stacked. Rena leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Danny was counting the till. Jordan sat on a crate near the dry storage, sipping water. Zachary stood near the doorway. "I'm stepping back after tomorrow," he said. "Won't be in every day." No one interrupted. "But I'm not disappearing. We're setting up an internal feedback line, not to HR, not to middle managers. Direct to me. No names required. If something's broken, I want to hear about it." Max, seated near the prep sink, shifted forward. "Will you actually read it?" Zachary looked straight at him. "Every single one." Jordan raised his hand slightly. "What happens if another Travis shows up?" Zachary didn't hesitate. "They won't last a week." There was no applause. No dramatic music. Just quiet acceptance and a long silence filled with something they hadn't had in a while: trust. The next morning, Zachary arrived early and stood by the back door as the first crew clocked in. He greeted each person by name, handed out fresh uniforms with the new company patch, a small symbol, but one he'd helped redesign to reflect what the company was trying to become. When Danny walked in, he handed her a small envelope. She opened it slowly. Inside was a letter confirming her promotion to full shift supervisor, effective immediately, with a raise and benefits eligibility. There was also a handwritten note. She read it, folded it carefully, and tucked it into her back pocket. "You still learning from us?" she asked, smiling just slightly. "Every day," Zachary said. "You guys are the real experts." She nodded toward the lobby. "Then let's open it right." He watched her lead the team into the morning setup, calling out assignments with calm confidence. As he stepped outside into the warming air, he paused to look back at Store 9. It didn't look different from the outside. Same paint, same sign, same layout. But inside, everything had changed. Not because of a sweeping overhaul, or a flashy campaign, but because someone finally paid attention. Because people who'd been ignored were finally heard. Because leadership meant listening before acting. Zachary walked to his car, knowing the real work was just beginning and knowing now, he'd never let himself drift so far again.